Hello, and welcome to my tutorial series on how to make a collective card game in Unity. In this video, we're going to create a script and setup that will deal cards from our deck to our hand for us to play. Let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up here to our hierarchy window, and we're going to click on our deck panel, and we're going to right click and we're going to hit duplicate. We're going to make an exact copy of this, and we're going to go down here and we're just going to rename this hand. And then we're going to click down here and we're going to take these cards. I'm going to click on the first one and then click shift and click to highlight them all. And we're actually going to delete them all. We're not going to have any cards in the hand right now. They're going to populate. So then I'm going to go ahead and go to scene. And then I'm going to grab the hand here and I'm going to move it down here to the bottom or just below here for right now. We'll work on our sizing later. Let's just work on the mechanics of the game right now. Now what we want to do is we want to click on our card prefab and then hit Control D to duplicate it. Now this will say card 1, and we're going to right click and we're going to rename this card to hand. And we're going to hit OK. And now this is going to create another separate prefab for the cards in our hand. And then we're going to go to scripts and we're going to right click, go up to create a new C# script. And you guessed it, we're going to call this C# script card to hand. So we're going to go ahead and open this card to hand C# script. And I've gone ahead, let me get rid of that one. I've gone ahead and just put the script here just to save a little time on it takes for me to type things out and for you to watch me type. And so I'm going to go ahead and explain what this is, though, is that we first created a public game object called hand, and this is going to be the game object here, right here, that we're going to be using. So, and then I created another game object called hand card, which is the card to hand prefab we created that we just duplicated. And then down here in the update function, I'm going to say that the hand is going to equal GameObject.find hand, and basically we're just going to tell it, hey, find the hand game object we created, that panel we created. Now what we're going to do is we're going to tell it that we're going to give it a position for the card, and that's basically what these four things and its scale. These four things are going to do. They're basically going to say, hey card, you're going to go this is going to be your parent, this is going to be your scale, this is going to be your position, and this is probably the very different thing you're going to encounter. This is going to be your angle, and this term called Euler angles. That's how you pronounce this name. This is the name of a mathematician. So Euler angles, basically, if I were to go here, and let's go into this 2D mode for a second, and let's click on our card, click on the rotation, and here in the rotation we have these red circles that represent our axes here, our Y, X, and Z axes. And sometimes when we rotate things around, I'm not going to do it right now, but sometimes when we rotate things around, you might be presented in a situation where one ring and another ring might be in the same plane, that this blue ring and this green ring will be together, let's say in the same plane. And in terms of 3D graphics, sometimes the graphics engine gets confused by this. And so what Euler angles do, and they're very complicated in coding. The coding behind this term Euler angles is probably pretty dense. It basically retranslates the angles so that the game engine can understand where something is in case something gets turned like that. So that's what we use Euler angles for in 3D graphics and also here in Unity. So let's go ahead and hit save. And we're going to go back into Unity. And I realized earlier that there might be a problem for some of you. Probably there is a problem for some of you in terms of how these cards are connected, because I wasn't paying attention to when I did my prefabs here, and that you might be having issues where some of these cards are not flipping over when you hit play, like mine are now. So I think it's because it's connected to this card, which was our sort of initial card that we made. But actually, let's just get rid of this card. We don't need it for anything. So to fix this problem, what you're going to do is that let me just start off. Let's just delete all these like so. I'm going to go ahead and grab our card prefab, and I'm just going to stick it right back into the canvas there, and there it is. And then I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to hit Control D, and I'm going to make 4 duplicates of it, just like so. And I'm going to grab them, and I'm going to stick them into the deck panel. And now these issues should be solved. In fact, we can just take this card right here and delete that, and then go back into player deck, repopulate our new cards like so. So now all our cards are linked together in a much better fashion. And then we're going to hit play. And then now you don't have this problem. I had one of these cards, I think it was this one, was flipped over, and then when I clicked it, it flipped another card. So now these cards are now separated when we click on them like so. And so to get back to what we were doing, let's go to our hand, and we're going to go back to our scripts, and we're going to actually attach our card to hand script. And here's our hand, and we're simply going to grab this and put our hand in there. We're going to go back to our prefabs. We're going to grab our card to hand prefab, and we're just going to duplicate him. We're going to put him in the hand just so we don't have another connection issue. We're going to delete this original, and then we're going to go back to hand. And actually, let's just rename some of these. Just rename him just to card to hand. Go back, grab this, put this here. While I'm renaming, let's just, actually, well, I'll do that later. That's not important right now. So we have our hand right here. We put the hand game object in it. Our hand card is our card to hand. We're going to push play. And now here we have our deck right here. And here is our card to hand. And it should be separate to where it can be flipped. It should be faced up, because when you want your cards dealt from the deck, you want them face down in your hand, like so. So now we're going to go to our display card script. And right here, we're going to declare a public game object. And we're going to call it hand, because we want to get a hold of our hand panel. And then we're going to say there's a public int, and it's going to be called number of cards in deck. And I want to make this a little f, just like so. Let me double check this number of cards in deck, because we're going to grab our number of cards in the deck, and then we're going to put them into our hand, obviously. And then down here in the start function, what we're going to have is we're going to then say the number of cards in deck is going to equal to player deck dot deck size. So we're going to say that the number of cards on deck are going to equal the deck size we have in our player deck that we created. And then down here in the update function, we're going to say that hand is going to equal game object dot find, and that the object obviously we want to find is our hand. And then after that, we're going to say if this dot transform dot parent is going to double equal sign. I'll need a space for it though. And that it's going to equal to hand dot transform dot parent. If that is true, then what we're going to want is that card back is going to equal false. So when the game begins, we want to make sure that the number of cards in deck that we created, this int, is going to equal to the player deck size, obviously. And then we want to make sure that our hand is always up, that we're seeing the card, we're not seeing the card back. So if this is the hand, then the card back is going to equal false. So now I'm going to go down and I'm just going to paste some code that I did earlier. It just seems a little quicker to do this way every so often. So what we're going to do is that we're going to create a tag. I'm going to create a tag called clone. And if the card is tagged as a clone, then it's going to subtract a card from the player deck, reduce the deck size. Then it's going to change the card back, change the card back to false because it's coming out of the deck, and the deck is the card back is facing up. So when it goes into the hand, it'll be face up. And then it's going to return its tag to untagged because it's no longer a clone. So now we're going to go over to our player deck script, and we're going to create, actually first we're going to call this a static int because that's what it is in the other script. And so they have to match, or erase whatever that is. And then we're going to just Control C to copy, Control V to paste, and we're going to make this a static list to go with our static deck in our previous. Oops. This is why it was a good idea to copy and paste some code. To go with our static deck, which is over here where I called it the player.deck is a static deck. So we have to make sure it is the same thing right here. So now we're going to go right here and we're going to add two more game objects. We're going to say there's a public game object, and we're going to go ahead and put that, and then we're going to put clones, and our second public game object is going to be our hand object. And then we're going to go down into our start function. And right here, we're going to put start coroutine. And our coroutine is going to be called start game. And we'll make that in a second. Now I'll kind of explain the coroutines in a second, actually also. So we're going to have start coroutine. And then we're going to go down to our update, and we're going to declare, actually we'll do it up here, that our static deck is going to equal our deck. And then we're going to go down here and we'll create our coroutine. And actually, I'm just going to paste the code right there rather than spend too much time typing. So a coroutine is basically going to create a little bit of a way to count down for things to happen. So what we want our coroutine to do right here, our start game, is that we want for I equals 0, I less than or equal to 4, I plus plus. So that means that I want 4 cards. You can make this number however many you want. You can have 5 cards in your hand. I just picked 4 for right now. So we're saying that for each card that comes out, it's going to, oh, actually, take this out. That's not there yet. So get rid of that. So for every 1 second, every second that goes by, it's going to wait a second, and then it's going to go and it's going to instantiate a card. It's going to take it from the card to hand. It's going to give it a position and a rotation. So that's how the coroutine works, basically. So it's going to say, you know, the first card's going to come out and it's going to instantiate, and then it's going to wait a second, and then it's going to have a second card come out, and then it's going to wait a second, and a third, and a fourth. Otherwise, if we didn't do this, the cards would just come out all at once really fast, and it won't look very good. And let's look up here, and I think I forgot. We need one more public game object, and that's going to be called our card to hand, which is, let's hit save. Make sure I spelled the name right, which is right here. So it's going to instantiate card to hand, which is our game object, which is going to be our card to hand. And then it's going to transform that position rotation. It's going to put it in the right spot at the right rotation. So let's hit save. Actually, let's fix one more thing. Let's go here and actually, this isn't the best solution for something I want, but really want to wrap this up. I don't want this video to be too long. Just make your deck size equal to 40. Let's hit save. And look at this. I just cart to hard. That's not how that should be. So let's go back into Unity for a second and let's actually just create a new C# script and we'll call it card to hand like we wanted to. I don't want the wrong stuff in there. We'll open this up. And where are we? Card to hand. So I'm just going to take everything in here. And I'm just going to copy. And we'll just replace it here. Sorry about this. Okay, so everything is set there. We'll get rid of card to hard or whatever that was. And let everything load a second. And we'll delete this. And the other thing I wanted to fix is actually, well, actually it's good that we did that anyway, because I needed to, yeah. So we're going to remove this component. And earlier I meant to put this, the script on the card to hand itself. So actually we don't even need that there right now. Let's go to prefabs, click to card to hand. Let's go ahead and add the right script to the right thing, like so. And I'm probably going to take that out, but we'll just leave it for now. Then the card to hand will be the prefab itself. So we're going to put that right there. And, okay, so let me double check. We fixed everything here. We attached, all right, so I'll just recap here. I called the script by the wrong name. It said card to hard. I want it to be card to hand. So I want that to be fixed so there's no further confusion in the project. So I just made a new script and cut and paste everything in there. But earlier I discovered that I had attached the script to the hand. And I wasn't supposed to do that. That doesn't really make much sense. It has to be attached to the prefab. This card to hand prefab right here should have the card to hand script attached to it. And I could probably take that out. I'll just leave it for right now. But nothing in the hand game object and put the actual prefab in here. So that catches us up right there. And now we have to create our tag, add tag, list, and we're going to call our tag clone. Remember, we go back here. We created where are we here with display card? We created this tag called clone. So with that, we now have a tag called clone. And we're going to go ahead and click tag again, and we're going to put the clone there. The layer should be UI. Now we're going to go back to our deck panel here, and we have our card to hand game object that we created on our player deck script. So we're going to put that there. And we have our hand. We're going to put this there. And now we're just going to save this. And now we're going to hit play. Hopefully this all comes together. And yes, it did. So this is exactly what we wanted to happen. We want to hit start and we want our cards to populate here. So actually I made a mistake earlier when I put 0 to, where is it? A lot of mistakes here today, sorry. But I think I cleared everything up. I said 0, starting at 0 going to 4 is actually 5 cards. You start at 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5. Let's go back, but you can put whatever number you want there. And so that's exactly what we wanted to happen. We wanted at the start of our game, we want it to deal us a hand. And if we go over here to our deck, we should be 40 cards, and we should have some of them been subtracted here. Which ones got subtracted though? Actually, let's do it this way. Oh, actually here, the cards get put into the hand, so it's going to tell me that, okay, number of cards in the deck. It is subtracting them there at least. But let's test it out, because based on our code back here, where is it? So if less than 30 cards in the deck, then one of these cards should disappear. So let's test this out to see if the cards are being subtracted in the way we want. Let's put 11 cards in our hand, which is quite excessive. We'll let this load. And now we're going to hit play. And now we're going to watch it populate. Here's are going to be our 11 cards. And now when the cards are fully loaded, when we get less than 30 cards, this should... it did. So, okay, all right, so the cards are being subtracted. They're just not being represented over here the way I thought they would, but I'll look into that. But the cards are being subtracted despite that information, because the deck went down by 11 cards, or actually 12 cards, and if it was less than 30, then this card disappeared, which it did. So our shuffle, or our dealing to our deck, is working as planned. So sorry for that little confusion at the end. I hope I clarified everything for you. As always, thank you for watching. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and support me on Patreon. All links are in the description below. And a very big special thanks to all my Patreon supporters. See you next time.